I mean, it's weird. Like, it definitely feels like the most cohesive thing we've ever done. Just songwriting wise, like the songs feel like better written songs than Of Rotten Ruin. Like they make more sense to us. They feel thematically more complete, and they were all figured out in a year and a half where we couldn't see each other.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you had a glorious weekend, because I most certainly did. We are now in the month of March, which means that sober February is behind us. Today's episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal is Montreal's premier metal promoter. They put on a bunch of sick shows all year long, and they have just announced that they're putting on Opeth and Mastodon with my friends in Chemist opening that show. That show will come through Montreal on April 21st at Place Belle. I am so stoked to see a big-ass show in my hometown. I'm so stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm also asking you to rate it and write a review. Now, why do I want you to do that? Well, you have to imagine that when someone is looking for a new podcast to listen to, what do? They scroll down, they look at the ratings, they check out the reviews, and if those ratings and reviews are positive, well, they're probably going to give that podcast a chance. So by you rating the podcast and writing a review, you could actually be the person that helps sway someone's decision to become a future Vox and Hops head, and that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today's episode is a very special episode because it is a full band episode. It is with a band that I absolutely adore. Today on the podcast, I'm with AJ Viana, Frank Albanese, Greg Nottis, and Peter Brown of Hath. This is Vox and Hops episode number 329.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today is a very, very special episode. I am here with four wonderful humans that make up one of the most exciting bands on the extreme metal scene right now, a band that I fell in love with thanks to Jerry Monk, the Vox and Hops metal architect himself. He introduced me to this band, I want to say back in 2019, when I asked the internet, can you please give me some, what are you listening to, Vox and Hops heads? And he's like, you got to listen to Hath. And I made this massive playlist for myself, and I went to work and I put it on shuffle, and then I was like, what's this? Hath. And then it kept going, and then again, what's this? Hath. And then again, out of all the songs, it was the ones that I just kept going, who is this band? So then I listened to the album, Addicted. We've got to know each other really well throughout the pandemic thanks to the Thirsty Thursday gang. How are you doing today? I'm joined with Pete Brown, AJ Viana, Greg Nottis, and Frank Albanese. This is Hath, and I'm very excited to be with you boys. How are you guys doing tonight?
Great, man.
Hello.
A lot better now.
Doing well.
Doing good.
Very, very happy to be with you. It's so cool to do a full interview with a full band. I'm so used to doing one-on-one. I was saying also before we started recording that this is going to be the first episode of a full band interview, which is something that I love and I'm interested in digging into. I did a live interview with Ingested that I put on my YouTube back at the beginning of the pandemic, but this is the very first episode, so I'm excited for that. Let's jump straight into it. Shittiest question of the night. The rest of it will hopefully get better. How did you guys cope? And we'll go around one by one. If you guys want to elaborate on other people's, that's fine, and that's how we'll go throughout the night. How did you cope with the glorious years of 2020, 2021, and most hopefully to the 10th power of 1,000th, not 2022? How did you cope with these glorious years that we're going through?
It sucked, straight up. It was boring. It's very depressing to see things go in such a way in the world, and I don't know what's normal anymore. to sum it all up.
How about you, AJ? AJ is actually a Vox and Hops alumni. I had him on right at the beginning of the pandemic. He was. I hit him up because of Hath, so it's actually his second time being on for Hath. But we talked a lot about your other projects as well. How did you cope since our last conversation?
2020. The first half of 2020 sucked. Latter half of 2020 was less suck because that was when we kind of got like full steam ahead with like writing and everything else for the record. 2021 stunk because the record was kind of done, but nothing was happening. And then the later parts of 2021 got better, and so far, knock on wood, 2022 is looking pretty all right. So earlier years sucked, but we're on the up. I feel like we hit bottom and now we're climbing.
I'm excited for you guys. Nothing worse than writing a record and then having to sit on it, trying to release. Yeah. It's like having a baby and then no one comes to visit the baby. And then by the time they come, the baby's old and then you don't like the baby anymore.
Yeah.
Because you have a new baby.
Yeah, the child is filing for its AARP card and you're like, what how, years have passed and we're still here.
Honestly,
How about you, Greg? How were these years for you?
I mean, they were all right. I mean, it was fine. I mean, not much in my life changed. My work never closed for anything. I didn't get COVID until like November or October or November or something like that. So, I mean, like, yeah, like I kind of just hung out, vibed. Cooked a lot, worked, drank some Pinot, and then we wrote a record. And now we're here doing this.
Yeah.
Sounds like every day. It's nice. It's nice. How about you, Pete? We got to know each other quite well because you came to a lot of the Thirsty Thursday virtual hangs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the few things that helped keep me sane through all this. So like 2020, just like everyone else, it really sucked. We had a pretty big tour lined up for April 2020 that, you know, same thing with everyone else. It was like, maybe, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? It didn't end up happening. And then I work from home every day. So my life didn't change too much, except I couldn't go anywhere anymore. So I only stayed home. There was no band practice, no going out, nothing. So I started going stir crazy. And the Thirsty Thursday gang, you know, those hangouts was actually really helpful for me because it was something I got to look forward to. It's like, okay, it's not just me and my wife, my cat, and my dog every day, you know, staring at the same house, same walls. It's like, okay, I can go talk with other people and not have to worry about it.
It was so organically created, the Thirsty Thursday gang. Yeah. It's never anything that I could have tried to create or planned to create. It just happened, and the timing of it was so crucial. Everyone needed a way to express themselves outside of the people in their house.
Yeah.
Shout out Thirsty Thursday gang.
I have the Thirsty Thursday gang, or I should say there's a lot of breweries around me that have to thank the Thirsty Thursday gang because I got way too into beer for maybe 8 months. It was like every night it's like, okay, 5 or 6 different breweries I can try out. Yeah, let's do it. And then I stepped on a scale 8 months later and it's like, okay, I got to slow down a little bit. I got to go outside. Yeah.
I'm going to fight the hops.
Yeah.
Well, everything was delivery too. So it was like, I don't have to go anywhere. Like everyone's delivering. I can try all this new stuff. So 2020, terrible year, except for trying craft beer.
Speaking of craft beer, Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music and craft beer. What are you all sipping on your side? And then I'll introduce my beer at the end, starting with you, Pete. Take it.
So I've got 2 local breweries I'm trying out tonight. This one, what I'm drinking right now, it's a Weissenbach by Hackensack Brewing Co. It's the Blizzard of 96. And then I've got an English ale by Ghost Hawk Brewery right after that.
Sick. Greg, you're pouring something from a box. So yeah. What are you drinking tonight?
it's this new place. It's this local brewery called Boda Box. It's a Pinot Grigio. It's not very hoppy at all because it's wine. Beer makes you fat, and I don't want to be like Pete and AJ. And so I like wine.
That's okay.
And that's about it. Yeah, I'm gonna send
That's a step up from your usual baby feet, your barefoot wine.
Well, here's the thing. I turned 30. I figured, to heck with it. You know what I mean? Spend the money. It's $2 more expensive, and you know what? I don't get hungover.
You're paying for quality.
You're paying for quality. It's a nice cardboard box. It's a recyclable bag inside. And you know what? I feel like I'm doing my part, and also getting kind of lit watching cooking shows on YouTube. And it tastes better out of my Mean Girls mug. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
I appreciate that very much. How about you, Frank? What are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking Hive Burner, which is the beer that we collabed on with Broken Goblet, who is very good friends of ours. They are close to 3 of us. It's a honey and habanero pepper IPA. It's extremely fucking good, and I wish everybody could have it, but sorry, it's done.
You gotta get the Broken Goblet crew to make it again.
Yeah, I would love more. I would love more. This stuff. I'll say it slapped a lot more than I expected it to. Well, not even expected to, but more than I even hoped that it would.
And it sold out pretty quickly too, which was kind of
I think it was
surprising
like a week.
To me anyway. I was like, who's going to drink spicy beer? And it turned out it was people liked it.
Love spicy beer.
Amazing. How about you, AJ? What are you drinking tonight?
I've got I'm going Jersey Strong today. I got a Tonewood Brewing Company Fuego. It's an IPA. It's not quite spicy, but it's very citrusy, and it's got like a little bit of a bite at the end. And then I got Mermaid Blonde Ale, shipped Bottom Brewery, on deck afterwards.
Fantastic. On my side, I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer because I am doing my sober February as we have this conversation. This is called Jules, and it is a watermelon Berliner Weisse from Le Bazaar Microbrasserie from here in Montreal. It's brewed out of Saint-Buck, which if you've listened to any episodes early on in the career of Vox&Hops, in the catalog of Vox&Hops, I did many interviews at Saint-Buck before the pandemic because they're awesome and they gave me free beer. So Saint-Buck, awesome, cool place in Montreal, and throughout the pandemic they sort of changed their mentality to making non-alcoholic beers, and they're actually really the best that are doing it in the province right now. So I'm going to crack this, pour this out, and I would love to hear about Frank. We'll take you first. What do you remember your first beer, the first beer that you ever drank?
I mean, other than trying to get sips that were like lying around the house, I want to like my first actual beer. Oh man, you know what? It was homecoming, probably my sophomore year of high school, and I don't remember which one was first, but I had a High Life, and I had a drink that was, I don't know if it's a thing still, but it's called Sparks. It's like an energy drink slash beer.
Okay, yeah. There was a fad of that for a while. Yeah.
But this was like, man, how long ago was this? Maybe like 15 years ago, 17 years ago. So those two things that first night were the first ones that I had. And eventually I delved into craft beers. I don't remember when that happened. It's all a blur after that.
Things got better but blurry. How about you, Greg? Did you remember the first beer you had before you tasted delicious raisin nectar?
Yeah, actually. So the first thing I remember is like my dad, when I was like 6, gave me a sip of like a Coors Light, and I was like, why would anybody want to drink it? Like, this is atrocious. Like, what, you drink this for enjoyment? Like, this is what they give people in like prison. Like, this is terrible. And then I remember when I got older, we had a garage fridge, which had beer in it. And I remember stealing one when no one was home. But what I didn't realize is that those beers were like 2 years old, so they were skunked. So then I had another beer, and I was like, this is even worse than the Coors Light. Why do people drink this? And then my first real beer was a Heineken, because I had a friend whose parents thought they were cool and like let kids come over and like party. And I'm like, no, I realize now, like, you're not cool. Like, your parents are a problem. Like, you're not cool. Like, me 14 throwing down Heinekens and passing out on your floor is not a cool thing. So I went to wine instead.
At least they're drinking in a house supervised, hopefully, and not out in the streets, though, which is a lot of people's mentality that let them do that.
Yeah, but when you're 55 and playing beer pong with a 13-year-old, it's not really.
No, that's true.
Yeah, but
that's not super cool.
Who won though?
I don't remember.
I've seen Greg's Pop Shot game. Obviously, Greg won.
How about you, Pete? Do you remember the first beer you ever drank?
The first one I can remember, I think I was at a house party, like my first or second week of college. And the rules of the house party were guys had to drink warm keg beer of whatever they got, and girls had like liquor or something like that. So I had that cool friend house in high school, but it was like, okay, all of us will throw $5. We'll get a really shitty bottle of vodka and we'll have 2 drinks and have a great time. And so we were like cheap about drinking growing up. And then when I got to college, I was like, all right, I guess beer, I have to learn to drink this now. And it was probably Natty Light or something like that. Some real like bottom shelf garbage college beer. And it was disgusting. I remember drinking like half like a red Solo cup. I was like, I can't drink this. Like I'm going to vomit just because it tastes so bad. And then that sort of like drinking out of cheap necessity just continued through college until like, I think I found Yingling. I was like, this is actually a good beer. Like I can drink a good number of these and not want to die until the next day. And I think craft beer, I don't know. There wasn't really craft beer in college. It was probably like good 5-6 years later after that.
No, typically in college, I imagine it's efficiency. You want something that's going to get the job done, but not cost too much.
Yeah, there's a lot of PBR, a lot of Tecate, a lot of Yingling, whatever was on sale.
AJ, I'm sure I asked you this question, but I don't remember the answer. So, what was your first beer?
So, sort of similarly to Greg's story, it was a lot of like at family gatherings. It would be like an uncle or something being like, "Hey, try some of this." And in my family, Corona is like the top of the mountain. So it would be like, "Try this Corona," and I would try, and it'd be like, "This sucks. I don't want this." And then, a couple years later, try the Corona. It's good. No, this sucks. I don't want it. And then we had similarly a garage fridge full of Corona. But what I didn't realize at the time, that my mom kept all the Corona in that fridge for like cooking. So it was like very, very old, like year-old beer. So you're not getting it for the alcohol content, you're getting it for the flavor. So I cracked one open and I drank it and it was skunked and it was awful. And then, so pretty much Corona felt like birth. And then throughout all my childhood was just like Corona, try this. And then I think my one time it was like while my wife was in college, went to a house party and they had Guinness, and I tried a Guinness and I was like, whoa, what is that? And then shit went haywire from there.
That was your thing for a while.
Yeah, Guinness was like it for me for a while. And then I was like, oh wait, there are other flavors in this beer rainbow that I can try. But yeah, Guinness was a staple for me for a while, even in the summertime. It sucked.
I don't believe in stout season. Everyone says there's always time for stout. This is really good. Yeah. It's sour. The watermelon really pops. The Jules from Bazaar Microbrasserie. It's tart, super light. You would almost, there's the questioning of if it's beer. It is a beer base, but it feels more like a drink, like a sweet sort of drink, but it's delicious. It feels great, and the mouth feels awesome. Let's dance deeper into you guys. I would love to hear about your first shows. Do you remember the first show that you went to go see? And we'll take it with you, AJ, and then we'll make our way around.
So I come from a Portuguese background. My entire family is Portuguese, and in town there was a Portuguese club. And we would go there when they would have, they were called ranchos, which is like Portuguese folk dancing and music and big old party. And that was probably the first time I ever saw like live performance. But probably my first concert that I ever went to was Yanni.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I do remember as I asked the question, I remember you talking about going to see underground metal shows.
Yeah, underground metal shows was probably, I couldn't pinpoint it, but it was probably somewhere, and Frank was also playing with his band at the time.
Interesting.
It was probably my first metal show was probably a show that Frank was playing.
Interesting. But Yanni, take us back to Yanni. Do you remember the experience of being there? Do you remember what your vibe was? Were you excited to see Yanni?
My parents had played, like they had like a couple of his CDs, and they would play it every now and again when they wanted music in the back but didn't want anything to like focus on, and so like I had heard it, and at some points I was probably like, this isn't like real music, go put like TLC or something on. And so we went to the show. My parents were like, we're gonna go see Yanni live, it's gonna be a great show, you're gonna love it. And I'm like, all right, sure. So we go, and we're like up kind of, it's in an arena. So we're on like kind of like side-ish stage up on the seats, a couple of floors up, and like the lights go out, the lights kick on, and it's just colors and sounds, because it's like all like world-based music. So it's like crazy like throat singing, and then like didgeridoo, and then like flutes and all this kind of crazy stuff. And I one vivid memory, the drummer busted into a drum solo. And this is around the time that I was like, oh, I want to play drums. And my dad's like, see, that's a fucking drummer right there. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, cool. I don't know what's happening right now. Like we're from dancing and like Indonesian kind of sounds, and now we're busting into a drum solo. I have no idea what's happening. I'm 12. Like
Yanni needed a break.
Yeah, he's doing too much. He needs to streamline.
How about you, Frank? Do you remember your first live music experience?
I remember several between the ages of like 6 and 9, I guess, but I don't remember which one was first. But we used to go to these like these festivals that were for the 4th of July, which sometimes they would have like larger acts. And I remember there was Foreigner one time, Blue Oyster Cult, and one time there was Pat Benatar. And so it was either that or it was George Thorogood at a biking festival, or Allman Brothers at an actual like concert. One of those three was it. I was too small to know exactly
what a range.
Yeah, seriously, but those are really good. You should have seen the bands that played at, no offense to the bands that played at the Two Mountains Canada Day services, but it wasn't Foreigner.
Yeah, right. I was like, okay.
That's awesome. That's a good first way to start. How about you, Greg? Do you remember the first show you went to go see?
I certainly remember the first concert I went to. Probably the first like live music. Well, the first live music I heard was probably the Mummers. So that's a big thing locally in like the Philadelphia, Jersey area. Like my cousins and my grandparents and my dad and pretty much everybody in my family on my dad's side, except for basically me, was a part of it. So that was always playing in the house, and every New Year's it's a big thing and there's a big parade. But actually, one of the first local shows I remember, it was a Battle of the Bands and Dig Your Own Grave was playing. AJ may or may not have been there.
Those are early, like, middle school bands, man.
Yeah, and
they ripped.
Yeah, and the singer took his shirt off for some reason in like the middle of the set. And then, but the first real concert I ever went to, it was Metallica and Godsmack opened up. My friend Zach, who was the guitar player in a band called Outer Haven, his dad took me and him, and I was in like 8th grade. And Metallica played, and I was a big fan of Metallica, but I was like, bro, it's 9:30. Like, how long do these things go? Like, I'm tired. I'm like,
it was school
like,
tomorrow.
Yeah, like, for real. And then I remember I couldn't afford a t-shirt in the venue, so we bought one in the parking lot, but they were only like 2XLs, and I was like 4'4" at the time, and it went past my knees. And my mom said, "You're never going to grow into it," so I gave it to Ethan Brauchman's mom. Small world.
Oh man, small world.
Love it. Pete, do you remember your first show?
First, like, music experience. Like, I grew up outside New York City, so probably a Broadway show or something like that. Going into the city with my parents, we saw a bunch of different like Broadways and operas growing up. They were like very, very into theater and live performance in that regard. They're not really like a traditional concert kind of crowd. So my first real, what we would call like a proper concert, I think I was 16, and there used to be a venue in New Jersey called Rexplex. It was like this 90s alternative, just insane amusement park. It had like skate rinks and paintball and indoor soccer and basketball courts, but they would hold these giant events there. And there was an event called Hellfest that ran for a few years. And me and some friends convinced one of my friend's dads to drive us down and pick us up. And we were going because Andrew WK was playing that day. We had no concept of whoever else was playing. Like, I think I Get Wet had just come out, and we were like, we want to go see that. He's playing. Let's go. We didn't, and this is probably 2003, 2004. We didn't realize Mastodon was there. Every Time I Die was there. Bane was there. E-Town Concrete was there. And there's like 3 or 4 other, now in retrospect, huge bands that we were watching. We're like, with no frame of reference of who they were. And we're like, okay, we just move on to like Mastodon's playing Leviathan and, you know, all that. And we're like screaming like White Whale, Holy Grail. I'm like, all right, it's a song about a whale. And we move on to the next band. Andrew WK was sick though.
Amazing. How about a twisted question, because I typically ask what your first show was like for yourself, but let's twist it since you guys are all here. Do you remember the first Hath show?
Oh yeah.
And how did that go? Greg, you kick this off.
Oh man, what was it called? Century
Bar.
So we didn't play a show for like the first like 3. Actually, our first show was like a week, or it was like really soon before we went on tour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We played our first show, and then like a week later went on our first tour.
Mm-hmm.
We played at Century Bar. It was like in the middle of like South Philadelphia, just on a corner, but there was like 20 people there, I think. Like, and I don't know. I think it was weird because we never played any of these songs in front of anybody. It was like you kind of didn't know how to act. You're like, does this look cool? Like, yeah. Like, oh, I can't hear Pete because he's playing like a crate combo on the other side of this, this like 6 foot by 6 foot room Yeah, it was cool. I don't remember pretty much anything else other than that, but I just remember it being really cool, and it was we were like, yeah, we're ready for tour. Yeah.
I recall the room in the back was extremely small. So we chose to share gear. So I think we shared cabs, and AJ used the house drums. And as soon as we started the first track, his kick drum like moved like 2 feet or some shit.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
I feel
it was like typical like house kit like that you would expect. I show up, I'm like, yeah, that'll work. And I was like, do you have something I can put in front of like the bass drum, because I know it's gonna move? And the sound guy was like, I have like that 2x4 over there. And I was like, sure, okay. So we put it in front, and yeah, like the very first like kick hit, I thought I was gonna send that to the front of the room. It was bananas.
if I'm remembering right, we only had like 2 or 3 practices before that. It was like everyone learn the songs at home. We'll try them a few times. We'll play this show. Hopefully it goes well. And if it doesn't, I mean, we're going on tour a week later, so figure it out.
Really? So the band really like wrote remotely?
Yeah, so we did in 2014, 2015, we recorded Hive and the EP. And then we rehearsed for like 3-4 weeks because it was just me, Frank, and Greg at the time. And we were like, yeah, we'll put out this EP. People seem to kind of dig it. We'll play some shows. And then like what, 3 months later, Frank was like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm moving to Ohio. And we were like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, from 2015 to like 2017, I think. Yeah, we were like on and off kind of writing and whatever. And then we wrote and recorded a Rotten Ruin. And yeah, when we played that Century show, we had like, there was no new music. Like, we played new music, but we hadn't dropped anything out. Like the first single didn't come out until January of 2019.
Yeah, we were
and that
on
show
tour.
was in November. So yeah, like we were on tour when the first single dropped, and that was the first like new music that was put out. So we played that Century show, and everybody was just kind of like, okay, who are these guys? We were like, we don't know.
Yeah, like
this is our first time doing this.
I mean, we still don't really know what we're doing, but like even then it was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I mean, we basically recorded that EP in AJ's bedroom at his parents' house. Like the whole EP was done. And then like we made a Facebook and was like, hey, by the way, we did this. If you want to listen to it, go ahead. And then I don't think we made a Facebook post for like 9 months after that. Like, we just were like, hey, here it is. Dark. And then just went on with our lives.
Just ghosted.
Pretty much.
But lots of good things did come after that. Of Rotten Ruin came out. Lots of accolades. Right now, you really didn't get to do much with it, sadly, because of the pandemic. You talked about a big tour that sadly didn't get to happen. But now all that was promised is coming. It's about to be out, actually, as we have this conversation. It's coming out March 4th via Willow Tip. Let's talk about it. Let's dig right into it. What is the evolution of Hath from Of Rotten Ruin to all that was promised? What was some of your main goals as a band to take Hath to the next level?
I think song-wise, we were definitely gunning for more aggressive. We were trying to make it everybody says it right. We were trying to make the songs heavier and more aggressive, and I think the climate in which it was written really lent itself to making the songs very dramatic, very moody, and very angry. And then I think the 2020 year really played a big part in how the songs kind of came out, I think. I
mean, it's weird. Like, it definitely feels like the most cohesive thing we've ever done. Just songwriting wise, like the songs feel like better written songs than Of Rotten Ruin. Like they make more sense to us. They feel thematically more complete. I don't know. And they were all figured out in a year year and a half where we couldn't see each other. So it was a lot of like remote writing parts, getting on like Hangouts or Zoom or something like that. And hopefully we can figure out how to make it play over the video call where everyone can figure out what's happening, piecing pieces together, and then having, hours long conversations of like, well, I think this would work better here, or maybe this would work better. And that went on for like, all of 2020. And then January 2021, we felt safe enough. Like we had all like quarantined for a week, like didn't leave. And we're like, all right, we're going to pick a day. We're all going to take off work. We're just going to lock ourselves in the studio and we're going to figure out what in this like giant garbage pile of riffs and half written songs we have, what works and what doesn't. And it was like a 14-hour day or something like that. We just locked ourselves in the control room, listened to every single thing for better or worse, and picked I think it was 12 that came out of that. And then later on, we whittled it down to 9. But it was like a list of 20, 25 songs to start with, or ideas, not even songs.
I think it was June or July 2020 where we had like the 23 or so tracks. And then in the fall was when we kind of like cut it down to like 12. And then we kind of just like hovered around that. And I think somewhere in that fall, we like chose the final 9. And that's when we sat on those songs until June 2021. So that was like 8 to 10 months that we just like had the same songs. And we would just constantly go, all right, now I'm having second thoughts about this one. Like maybe we change this part, or maybe we add this, or maybe we move this to the end. Maybe we swap the final track with the 7th track, like that kind of stuff. And we did that for like 7 months.
Yeah. We basically we gave ourselves like homework assignments. Like, hey, go listen to these 15 songs. And then we had just like a big Excel sheet, and it was like, what are the pros and cons of each song? Like we all had a tab, and it was like, this song I don't like from 2:30 to 4 minutes. Like that's all garbage. It's boring. It's repetitive. Get rid of it. Like this song's great. I don't like this song. And then we would have a big Zoom meeting, and like Pete would share a screen, and then we would go like page by page and be like, all right, so everybody likes this part. All right, well, everybody likes this first half of the song. AJ and Greg don't like the second half of the song. All right, well, what can we switch around? What can we redo? What can we do? And like we would have to listen and like make notes on what we liked and what we didn't like.
It was like a very calculated approach in that regard, because we couldn't see each other. Like we couldn't sit in a room and organically feel out how they were playing as a group. We didn't practice these for the first time until I think March 2021. We were all in the same room together to try it out for the first time. And like, even when we thought we would get to a good point where it was like, okay, this is the list. This is what we're going to focus on now. One of us would discover like, hey, out of 10 songs, 8 of them all fade out, or like 8 of them or 4 of them start the same exact way or too similar. So it would go back, and we would just have to keep reworking over and over and over. Just so like looking at it from, pull it back 100-foot view. It's like, do these make sense by themselves? Do they make sense together? Like without even knowing how they felt played as a band.
Yeah, there was even, I think that even carried through the recording process. Like I was telling Frank, there was one song that we were cutting vocals for, and right before he came in to do, because he had come in, he did the vocals. We were like, the lyrics, the patterns, like none of it's vibing. Like it kind of sucks. So let's go back and we'll try it. Like go home, figure it out, and then we'll come back again and we'll try it. And if it, and see where it goes. And I remember sitting in the control room, like listening to the demos and just being like, we're probably gonna have to cut this song. The vocals are like everything just felt so boring. And Frank like came in, he like threw his shit on the ground. He's like, no, we're gonna fucking do it. And he came in with like full energy and did it. And we were like, all right, yeah, no, I think you just needed to sleep on it and then rip it out, and then it worked.
So many amazing things, so many, just good work ethic is really what's resonating the most out of everything you've just said. Being in a band myself, I know that writing material together is difficult. It's difficult when you're together, even more difficult when you're apart. How did you guys voice this sucks? You just sort of said it right there. How did you guys get through the not taking things personally, realizing that it's for the good of the album, for the good of the band, versus this is my riff, I love this riff? How did you not take everything too personally?
We just bully each other all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's ever really been an issue. I mean, there's been conversations where someone's kind of gone to bat for a song or a section or a riff, but we all understand, like, we've all been playing music, and we've all been playing music in one way or another with each other, either in this band or other bands or whatever the case may be. Everybody kind of has the understanding that it's like, yeah, I'm not saying you suck. I'm saying your riff sucks, and that's different.
That's my lifeblood.
Yeah, but it's like everybody, like, if everybody has the understanding that it's like, it's communication, and it's if we don't think something works, like, well, we have to sit and talk about it. And it's like, all right, well, if I think something sucks and they think it's great, all right, well, then I just fucking lose. Like, I lost, and the part stays, and I don't take it personally. It's just like, all right, well, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think we take that approach with almost everything we do, is we try and go for at least a 3/4 compromise. You know, if three out of 4 guys say this is good, I like this, we roll with it. If 2 guys say it's good and 2 guys say it sucks, then we got to figure it out. But like, for example, when we were picking out the singles, like, I didn't think Kenosis, our first single, was strong enough to be the first single. I was like, it's a good song. It's not like the song. And they all looked at me. They were like,
vehemently disagree.
Yeah,
with you
they all
now.
looked at me. They're like, you're a fucking idiot. And I was like, probably. But like, we kind of approach that perspective too. Like, everyone in the band kind of has a role. If that role is, you know, you're the guy who comes up with the best riffs, or maybe for this band, your riffs aren't the strongest, but you take care of all the management, you take care of all the social media, you're on top of the actual business side, or, you know, you do all the engineering, or you come up with all the little fill ideas, or something outside of just music. Like, I feel like we all kind of have a sense of like, yeah, you know, I may only get 1 or 2 songs of like my ideas on an album, and the majority is going to be someone else, but I do A, B, and C other things. So there's never really a sense of like someone's slacking or someone's not pulling their weight.
Yeah, and especially on the music side, well, I guess in any aspect of being in a band, anytime there's any sort of like any ideas that come up, and there's like I wouldn't say a dispute, but if there's like a conversation of like what stays, what goes, what's cool, what's not, it's like, if Frank came up to us with a riff and he was like, hey, like, check this riff out, I think it's really sick. And we're like, I don't know, dude, it's kind of whack. And his only argument to keep it is, I don't know, dude, it's kind of sick, like, it's my riff, like, whatever. Then, like, that's not good enough. Like, you gotta be, if you're presenting an idea, you gotta be able to back it. If you can't back up your own idea, then why should it stay? You know? Thankfully,
on the album, like, there wasn't anything that we like poo-pooed that like someone was like seriously like championing, like, no, I need this on there. Like, that never like happened. Like, we all mostly agreed on all the stuff.
We all end up at some point throughout the writing process critiquing each other or asking for critiques. Like, I'm going to use Kenosis again. I had initially planned that solo in Kenosis to be half that length. So I had my whole solo written and like practiced and almost ready to start recording. And then Frank or AJ was like, what if we doubled that?
Or like make it longer.
I was like, you want me to write a whole other? Yeah. I was like,
yeah.
You want me to make a whole other solo in like a week? And they're like, yeah, do it. I was like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, tough, do it. And I got it. I want to say like 90% there. And there was just like one or two parts I was stumped on. I was like, I know where it is. I know where I want to go. And here are the main notes I want to hit. But I'm drawing blanks. Help me out. And I think AJ, you were like, well, what if you did this? And like, you just sent me some rough ideas you had bouncing around, and that like triggered something. I was like, okay, now I have ideas to finish it. Or Frank, I think I remember there was another time where AJ was demoing drums or something like that. And you're like, that feels good, but you're better. like you're better than that. Be better than that.
I like to ask AJ to do more.
Yeah. There's like this healthy kind of back and forth of like, we expect more than you, more of you. So be better than that without being a bully about it. We're going to bully you without being a bully.
That's how Whisper Supremacy came to life between John and Flo.
Oh, yeah?
Absolutely. Pushing each other. I want to talk about AJ. You produced most of the record, right?
The only thing I didn't do was the mastering, which was done through Alan Douches, West West Side legend.
Yes. Talk to me about that decision. Why keep it in house? Why not go to someone else? The confidence of having someone you can only blame AJ. Maybe, I don't know.
I ask myself that every time I say I want to record our own stuff. One of these days I will give it away, but I think it is a little bit of the like I'm kind of there from the beginning, so I want to see it through to the end kind of aspect to it. But it gets tough, especially in the later parts of it. I remember very vividly. I'm in like the last bits of mixing a couple weeks before I needed to send it out for mastering, and I'm like, does this suck? Does this all just suck? I hate I'm like this bass drum. Is that really what I want it to be? Is the snare what I want it to be? Does Greg sound cool? Like, is this the solo tone? Like, lots of second guessing. So yeah, I definitely ask myself that all the time, but I don't know. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I play drums in a death metal band, so obviously that isn't enough, I guess.
In a few death metal bands, but
yeah.
How about you guys at the other side of the band, trusting him? Talk to us about that decision of trusting him to mix the next big album.
I mean, so me and AJ are actually in another band that's not metal, and we do the exact same thing. We do it all in house, and it's like working so closely with AJ and all these things. It seemed just like the natural decision to me, at least. I mean, who would know better than us right now and what we want? And like, especially with the second album, like kind of maybe finding, like kind of honing in on our sound, like what our voice is kind of in like the genre. It's like, who would know, in my opinion, like who would know better than AJ at this point? Because he does everything. He writes and he records and then he mixes and he edits and he helps with lyrics and he does everything else. So like, to me, it was like a natural thing. Me and AJ actually had a conversation about like, we were driving somewhere.
Brooklyn. We were stuck in fucking Brooklyn traffic.
Oh yeah. And yeah, we were talking about like, would it be cool to go to somebody else and have like an outside opinion who's not us? And I think at first we stuck with AJ because it was like, well, we don't want to spend money. We don't want to spend any of the budget. Like, why would we pay someone to engineer it when AJ can engineer it?
Yeah. Like, we've all been in a bunch of different bands and had different recording situations where we were either paying someone a couple $100 a day to rent a studio and have a board engineer do something. And then, you might get a few revisions And like, you better know what you want before, like almost exactly what you want, with references, with ideas, with like pretty regimented opinions of how you want this to sound, or like very DIY where it ends up sounding like Duke because, you know, you had a couple $100 to buy an interface and a few microphones and you're like, oh, we'll figure it out. Well, we started with that guy who just kept buying microphones and kept figuring it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So at least now I think the track record, I'm going to compliment AJ. So watch him blush. Just watch him just shrivel up in his chair. We found someone whose track record speaks for himself, where it's not like anything he puts out sounds bad. It just keeps getting better over time. And I think a big reason for that is AJ is a studio nerd in the most literal definition. It's like the rest of us want to go hang out. He's like, no, I just bought a preamp, or I bought a drum mic that does 5 different things. We're like, okay, nerd, like we're going to go play guitar now, to our benefit. So like, I don't like in some ways it's really, really helpful because we're all a bunch of opinionated assholes about it. It takes us 2 years to record an album. So we would bankrupt any label that wanted us to go somewhere else. And at the same time, it's given us a really awesome opportunity to figure out what exactly do we want. Like, we're not under any time pressure to put an album out. We're not under any sort of like financial pressure to like, you only have this weekend to get in there and get all the drums done. You have 2 days for guitar. It's like, no, we'll go home and we'll come back. Like, yeah. We're really fortunate in that regard. And now that I feel like we have a really solid understanding of what we sound like, what we like, and especially what we don't like, you know, in the future, there might be an advantage to going somewhere else, but at least for the time being, like, this works really well for us. Maybe not Frank. I think Frank doesn't want to record vocals with me anymore after I made him sweat in the control room.
We're not recording in the summer. Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah, that's a crucial thing we learned this year, was not to record in the summertime.
Because you got to turn the air off because it makes noise, and then it gets fucking hot.
Yeah. How about, I love this question, a dream tour. Imagine you guys could pick your own tour to make half perform in front of the perfect audience to showcase all that was promised to the perfect metalhead, so that when that metalhead leaves the show, they are future Hath fans. What bands will be on that bill? Let's say it's a 3-band bill. Hath is opening the show. What 2 bands should play on top of you guys?
Opeth and Nile.
I was going to say Opeth and Nevermore.
Whoa, oh man. I was thinking of bands that still exist.
We would be the odd ones out, but I just want to see that tour.
Yeah. I was thinking of bands that still exist, but damn. That's good.
Yeah, Opeth and Nile would be tight.
I think that would work.
I don't know what Opeth and Nile would do with each other, but like that would be awesome to see for sure.
We'll do Bloodbath and then
yeah, it'd be Bloodbath, Nile, and then everyone will say, "Hey, that opener just ripped off the 2 headliners."
Yeah, we'll do us. Bloodbath and Black Dahlia. That's a crowd that we could reach.
Absolutely. Jerry Monk gave you guys a raving review. I just read
the architect himself.
The metal architect himself delivered a stellar review for all that was promised. The only thing that was missing, in my opinion, was a guest vocal from me, but you chose not to have any guest vocals. So nothing was promised.
No, wait.
But it is called.
I want to address this. So
you knew I'd bring it up.
So AJ and I talked about it a lot. But the thing that I suck at is we don't arrange the vocals until we're like recording. And we went, all right, how about this part? How about this part? How about this part? And we talked about it for like weeks. And then once we actually get into the recording, at that point I was like, I don't know, all this is like so personal. I just like like, I don't like, I feel weird getting someone else on here. Cause like these songs are not like, these songs are more personal for me, but also like we got halfway through tracking and I was like, I don't know what part to put him on. And AJ was like, I feel the same thing. But now I'm like, all right, so now I'm saying it's on a recording. I'm vowing I'm going to set aside a part. I'm going to set something aside because I would like us to do something.
That'd make me very happy, and I appreciate it.
I felt so bad. I was like, I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it too.
I was like, the record is finished. You're finished. I was like, oh, okay, but it's okay.
I felt so bad. I was like, son of a bitch.
Let's touch on being a part of Brewtal North America. You were actually one of the first bands that I hit up when I was setting it up. I believe I hit up The Agonist and Le Fermentor Overhop up here in Montreal. Broken Goblet was definitely one of the first ones that I wrote in the States because I had just had him on the podcast and I knew he had done a band beer for Unearthed. It just worked. So it was an immediate yes from Mike, and it would look like an amazing beer. So talk to me about your experience being a part of Brewtal North America.
I mean, the B-Gob boys are the boys. Like we've known Mike forever, and one of me and Frank's earlier bands had actually recorded with one of the current owners of Broken Goblet too. His name's Jay, and so like we've known each other for over 15 years, 15 years now at this point. Maybe
Jay
longer.
For 14 years, Mike for maybe 11 or 12.
Way too specific.
You asked.
Thank you. But yeah, like we've known them for a long time. And so we're always at Broken Goblet. It's always like, hey, it's Saturday, we're bored. What do we want to do? Oh, let's just go to B-Gob. They have a cover band playing, or it's quiet there today. Let's go. let's go and drink beer and stuff. So when you had hit us up to do it, we were like, yeah, like obviously we would do it. And the whole process from beginning to end was like effortless, at least on our part. Like Mike, we came up with the idea. Mike was like, yeah, we can do that. And then went to Jay's brother, Bub, who's the brewer there, and was like, hey, spicy, sweet, gotta be easy to drink. It's summertime. And he was like, I got you. And it was like I think they did one test brew, and Bub had said it wasn't spicy enough. So then he redid it, and then the second revision or the first revision of the beer was the one that got canned. So like they nailed it in very few tries. And then we showed up for labeling, and we all like got to like enjoy it like out of the can, in the glass, the whole bit. And we were just like, yeah, what the fuck? This is great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it was a little surreal. It was like this feels a little bit above us. Like we're making a beer right now.
And you guys delivered such cool content for the video portion, the little making of that we were making of everything. You guys really went above and beyond. And Chris Kells of The Agonist, who helped put together all of that video content, was very impressed with what you guys put out. So thank you so much for that.
No, it's definitely a pleasure to do it. We're very thankful that you asked us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do.
I love it. You guys have been busy writing music, recording music, very, organized way of writing music, putting in a lot of work. But I'm curious how you've been filling the void of performing live. Something that I get to do is what we're doing right now. Right before I sit down right here, I'm always a bit nervous. Am I prepared enough? Is the internet going to work? Is the sound going to be good? It's always something that stresses me out the same way that I feel right before I jump on stage. So how have you guys been filling the void of performing?
Yeah, early 2021? Our merch partner was putting together an online fest, Don't Get Out of Bed Fest, through Massacre Merch. It was like 20 bands.
It was almost 20 bands. It was crazy.
We agreed to do that. And we also got hit up and agreed to do one of the months for Metal Injection's Slay at Home Fest. So those were like pretty close together. So Slay at home. We were all working on like recording at home, trying to make it as authentic as we can with like live DIs and trying to figure that out. And then for the Massacre merch fest, we partnered with Broken Goblet again because they have a bigger stage there. So it was us and Cognitive one night. The brewery was closed because of COVID. And we partnered with Sonny from Hate 56, he does like a lot of punk and hardcore filming, especially around Philly. He came in and he filmed just a live set to no one. It was like the most weird thing. Just this big empty room. So that was like 2 things we did. And like we started a Twitch channel for shits. Like Frank plays a ton of video games. And for me, it was like my week, like at least once a week now, I practice guitar online. Because if I didn't do that during COVID, like especially during 2020, there's a good chance I would just not have played guitar for a year. Like if I didn't have a purpose, something like to work towards, you know, between albums, no shows, nothing going on, can't practice with the band. For me, it's like, why? So that was like, all right, at least I'm at the very least, if no one's watching, no one's interacting, I'm practicing our normal set or like songs we don't play very often once a week.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as like the like pre-show jitters that I would usually get before playing, I feel like I get that anytime I'm like asked to record somebody that I don't know. So it's like, I kind of get that like, where you would normally be like feeling out a crowd to see like what's kind of going on, you're feeling out a band and you're just, you know, trying to make sure that they're comfortable and doing that. So that definitely kept me, gave me very similar vibes. There's nothing, I don't sweat nearly enough recording bands as I do playing a show, which is, I guess, arguably nicer. But yeah, I don't think anything truly replaces like the feeling of getting up on a stage and just yelling at people.
No,
can't do that. I love it.
I mean, you could do it on the streets, but that won't end well.
I mean, we had that weekender in October with Burial in the Sky. That was our first show in like 18 months or something like that. And we were playing to like a room of friends in Philadelphia. It was a very weird show where it was not well attended, but like all the bands that were there were our friends. So it was like, okay, it's like a band practice with friends. And I had jitters. It felt like similar to the first show I ever played. It was like, how the fuck is this going to go? like there's no one here. Like everyone gets it, but it's like, what the fuck am I doing? And it's like within 7 minutes, you relearned everything.
The third show of that, the New York show, was the first one where I was like, oh my God, I feel good again.
Yep. Right. It felt real. It was like, okay, we're in a groove. And then the run was done.
Amazing. Greg, Frank, you want to touch on Filling the Void at all?
I've been listening for like the last like 10 minutes. No, I mean, jokes, babe.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I miss playing shows, but like I never really played a ton of shows. Like I miss playing shows. Like our first tour. Now that we're going on another tour, I was talking to people and I was like, that tour was probably like the most fun I've had at like probably like in my entire life. And so like when I think about it, like, yeah, like I miss shows, but like I kind of didn't think about it because it was like, well, kind of life goes on. Like you still have to go to work and you still go home and you take care of your dog and you cook and you clean and you do this, and then you get a text message saying like, hey, we're going to go play a show. And it's like, all right, cool. Now we're doing that again. And it was like, I don't know, like it was a void, but it was never something that ever really sunk in. Like I never sat on my couch and like stared at the wall being like, man, I wish I could go play a show again. But I mean, me and AJ and our other band like had our first practice the other day for like the first time in like 10 months. And I left
a little over a year almost.
Yeah. And I mean, I left that practice being like, holy shit, I missed that. Like, that was like, it was like invigorating to like play those songs again and stuff like that. And I think once probably 3 shows in, I'll probably be like, wow, like, I can't believe I haven't done this in how many months, what year, 2 years, like whatever, or how long it's been. But I mean, like that span of time where we didn't play because of the pandemic and all that stuff. I mean, it was just, hey man, get up, go to work, and watch some cooking shows, drink some wine, talk shit in a group chat, and go to bed.
What about you, Frank?
Yeah, the Twitch has been great because it's a way. I view it as a way for us to interact with fans without having to tour, since we can't. And it's good. And I think it's something good to start now because we all have jobs that we can't just like quit and stuff and go tour all the time. So like it's something that we can continue to do after, life returns to quote unquote normal. Because it's an easy way that we can interact with people without having to quit our jobs and go on the road. So that's been cool. And like, I do it twice a week. And other than the album, the only things I've really been invested in is like, I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm in 3 games, and some people play more, but like, goddamn, that is like, with like work and band stuff, I'm like, it's a lot, man. Like, so Vox&Hops hangs are
Thursdays normally. Yeah,
I don't come because I play on Thursdays, and I'm like, otherwise okay. I'd be there too. But like, no, that's been the big thing that's gotten me through this all. I made some friends on Twitter who I've like played a game with, and like that game's been a ton of fun. Yeah, like that's been a huge thing for me throughout this whole like past few years. Games and the Twitch.
Frank would get a lot more done if he wasn't always playing all these damn games.
I just love the games. Look, hate the player.
Yeah.
This one time, hate the player.
We're going to wrap this up. One last question. Classic Vox&Hops wrap-up question. I'm sure I asked AJ last time, but maybe it's changed since then. You guys are very busy. Too much Dungeon and Dragon. Work as usual. Cooking shows. Hanging out Thirsty Thursday. Definitely you'll need it after too many Thirsty Thursdays. But every once in a while it happens to everyone. What are your hangover cures?
It's still the same for me. Greasy ass eggs, coffee, and Excedrin.
Same, but any sort of like processed meat, like processed pork meat on a bagel, eggs, cheese, maybe a hash brown, depending on how hungover I am, and the world's biggest coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an adult, so I don't get hungover.
Fuck you, Craig.
So Matt, like, how often have you been touring through our area?
Oh, at least probably 5 to 10 times.
Have you gone to Wawa?
I know exactly what it is. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So like basically the thing that I like to do is like late at night have a greasy ass sandwich at Wawa, and then sleep, and then I like wake up, and if it's still bad, there's a shop right in town, and I'll get a sausage, egg, cheese, and hash brown on and everything, and that sandwich will cure everything. Everything that ails you.
Basically, I took 1,000 milligram of aspirin and the world's biggest coffee, and just pray.
Yeah, like Jersey boys, the hangover cure like staple is some kind of greasy bagel.
I'm seeing
you
that.
can't escape it.
some bagel, egg, cheese, your choice of meat, and some sort of caffeine, maybe a Gatorade.
Yeah.
Pedialyte.
Yeah, Pedialyte. That's the tour cure.
Oh, I've got my email alerts set up. I'm waiting for a Pedialyte sale, and I'm going to town. I'm prepping 2 months out.
Fantastic. Pete, AJ, Greg, Frank, thank you so much for taking the time, hanging out with me, talking about your life, talking about music, talking about craft beer. I'm very excited that we got to do this. I am all about half, hail half, as we say in the Thirsty Thursday gang. All that was promised, coming out this Friday, March 4th. Listen to it. Get the hype train going. It's you don't want to miss this hype train because it's leaving the station real soon, people. Massive cheers, guys. Thank you so much. It's amazing.
Thank you for having
us.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. This was an epic conversation. We continued hanging out for another 20-30 minutes after we stopped recording. We had more stories, more laughs. I cannot wait to hang out with Hath face to face for the first time. I am such a fan of what they've done with their music. I am very excited about their new record, All That Was Promised. It's coming out this Friday, March 4th via Willowtip Records. Trust me, you do not want to sleep on this record. Check it out. It is worth the hype. Massive cheers to Hath. I cannot say anything more but what we always say at the Thirsty Thursday virtual hangs whenever a member of Hath is there. Hail Hath. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, including all the info about any episodes which I dropped that week. If I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, you also hear about any projects that I have in the works before I announce them to the public. You will get to see the album reviews which the Vox and Hops album review crew have dropped that week, and you'll get to see which albums Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself, the man that introduced me to Hath, has added to the Brewtal Awakenings playlist, which is available on both Apple Music and Spotify. There's just so much going on in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. I would hate for you to miss a single thing, so please do me a favor and sign up to the mailing list. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a glorious rest of the week. I will be back next week with 2 episodes, but until then, please remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.